Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caffeine, and I welcome you to the final race of ACSaturdays Season 26, Indycar Insanity. So, since neither me nor Seminones could make the third race, this one was going to decide the Constructors' Championship, either us, CK Delta, or Custom Racing. At the Milwaukee Mile, AK11, Cream, and Elias Davey took the noob class, while the intermediate class podium went to Curse, Luki, and Tate. The track that this race takes place on is the Indianapolis road circuit, with 14 turns and 2 oval sections. Since the tire wear isn't too horrible and the race is only 1 hour, me and Seminones, as well as most of the grid, were going for a 2-stop race. Because of some issues with the track on the day of the race, this event had probably the least attendance out of the whole season, with only 11 drivers on the grid. I qualified all the way back in P8, and Seminones qualified in P6, in front of Cream and right behind Anatoly. Despite having a less than ideal start, I was quite lucky as a ton of people crashed in turn 1, and I managed to escape the chaos unscathed in P5. On the other hand, it wasn't going nearly as well for my teammate, who got into a bit of an incident on the race, and on top of that, he also spun a few turns later, falling down to P10. In this track, many of the turns are really difficult to take properly, as it's very easy to lock up or lose the rear, like in Laguna Seca. And by staying consistent for the first few laps, I'd moved up to P3, which is the highest position I've ever been at in my whole career. But that was very short-lived, as on the same lap, I accelerated too hard on a corner exit and lost the car, falling down from P3 to P7 with Seminones ahead of me. Around lap 5, as I was holding my position, Seminones just barely dodged a Star Trek who was in the middle of the track.
Seniai galvojau viskas, bus ritma.
By lap 18, I was holding on in P6 when Seminones, who was up in P4 and barely 3 seconds away from P3, had a huge spin on turn 14, losing the small gap and his chance at P3. Just a few laps later, Sed, who was at P13, flipped upside down. Not sure how he managed that, but all I can say is unlucky. Lap 21 marked the beginning at the end. I spun, I kissed the wall, and I walked away with suspension damage. But that being said, it wasn't a total disaster. My tires were shot and fuel was low anyway, so pitting at that point wasn't too horrible for me. The pits on this map are really long, so by the time I exited the pits I was back in P8, and just 1 turn later, I spun out, on fresh tires mind you, falling down to P9. But, as we all know, misery loves company, and just a lap later, my teammate also spun out, almost losing his P4 position. Pretty soon I caught up to Star Trek, who was in P8, and as we approached turn 1, Sed outbraked himself, taking Star Trek out with him, and I got up to P8. While I was losing control of the car, Seminones had gotten up to P3, and was lapping me. When on turn 12, I got hit while taking the corner. And things weren't going as well for Seminones either, as he spun out on lap 31, losing the position to Samarth. With 17 minutes remaining of the race, I pitted for the last time, fueling for the remaining stint and putting on fresh softs. As I was catching Anatoly in P7, I kissed his back wing and he crashed. And, well, I'm sure that one was my fault, but I'm not sure what the stewards would say. But after I myself crashed, Anatoly overtook me, at least for 1 straight, after which I took back the position. And just like that, the race was over, with Seminones finishing P1 in the new class and me finishing in P4. P2 was taken by Elias Davey and P3 by Cream, who won the Drivers' Championship. Massive W. In the intermediate class, P1 was taken by Kerr Sargent, who also won the Drivers' Championship in his class. P2 was taken by Samarth and P3 by Tate. Looking at the team standings, Anatoly and Star Trek of Custom Racing beat out me and Seminones' team by just 4 points, followed up by Model 2 Racing with 51 points. Meanwhile, in the intermediate class, the win was taken by Casual Force Racing, although they have 3 drivers, so I'm not sure how fair that is. The season was definitely one to remember, and despite all the bullshit that came along with it, it was really fun to participate. That being said, I'm super excited for Season 27 Cup Car Chaos, where the intermediate class will be driving around touring cars, and the new class will be driving MX-5s, with some really interesting tracks lined up. But that's not all that we've got planned. We're also going to be running an endurance race, the 6 Hours of Daytona, so make sure you check out that video when it comes out. One more thing I want to mention, we've launched a CK Delta Discord server. It's still new, and if you want to hang out, talk racing, or get pinged whenever a new video goes up, the link's in the description. I also wanted to mention that I'm sorry that this video isn't maybe as high quality, isn't as long as the last videos were, but I'll try my best in the next videos to keep them as entertaining as possible and have a bit more content in them. That being said, thank you to everyone who stayed around during the length of the season, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.